Your nervous system is like an internal security system. Every single second of every day, it is scanning your environment, your body, and your thoughts, making one fundamental decision. Are you safe, or are you under threat? This is not a conscious process. You do not choose it. It happens automatically, beneath the surface of your awareness, driven by ancient biological programming that has kept human beings alive for hundreds of thousands of years. When the system detects danger, it activates. It floods your body with stress hormones, tightens your muscles, sharpens your senses, and prepares you to respond. This is an extraordinary and intelligent design. The problem arises when the system stays activated long after the original threat has passed. When the nervous system has been under sustained pressure for months or years, it can become stuck in what is known as a state of hyperarousal, a kind of permanent alarm mode where the body cannot distinguish between a genuine emergency and the ordinary demands of daily life. Everything begins to feel like a threat. Rest becomes impossible. The system simply does not know how to switch off anymore. Think about what years inside a high-pressure financial environment actually demand from a human body. The deadlines, the performance expectations, the constant need for control, the fear of making costly mistakes, the relentless pace. Over time, the body learns to operate in one of three survival states. The first is fight, characterized by tension, the drive to control outcomes, the feeling of pressure building with no release. The second is flight, experienced as restlessness, a sense of being driven forward without pause, an inability to slow down even when exhaustion is setting in. The third is freeze, which often arrives after prolonged exposure to the first two, manifesting as deep fatigue, emotional numbness, and a hollow sense of emptiness. Your body has been working at maximum capacity for a very long time. Now it has become stuck in survival mode. This is not a personal failure. This is not weakness. This is a completely normal biological response to prolonged overload. The nervous system adapted to the demands placed upon it. It did exactly what it was designed to do. The consequences of remaining in this state are wide-ranging and deeply physical. Sleep becomes disrupted because the body cannot down-regulate enough to enter deep rest. Rumination takes hold because the threat detection system keeps scanning for problems even in the middle of the night. Exhaustion becomes chronic because the body is burning enormous amounts of energy, maintaining its state of readiness. The immune system weakens because resources are being diverted away from repair and recovery. Emotional responses become harder to regulate because the part of the brain responsible for calm, rational processing is being overridden by the survival circuitry. None of this is a character flaw, it is biology. There is a great deal of misunderstanding about what it means to regulate the nervous system, and it is worth addressing this directly. Regulation does not mean thinking positively. It does not mean pulling yourself together through willpower. It does not mean becoming more productive or pushing through the discomfort. These approaches, while sometimes well-intentioned, completely miss the point because they operate at the level of thought and behavior, while the dysregulation is happening at the level of the body and the autonomic nervous system. Regulation means something far more specific and far more powerful. It means teaching your body to move again between states of activation and states of rest. It means rebuilding the capacity to feel tension and then genuinely release it, rather than remaining permanently locked in the alarm state. The nervous system is not a fixed structure. It is adaptable. It learned to stay in survival mode through repeated exposure to stress, and it can learn to return to balance through repeated experiences of safety and calm. The pathways through which this happens are primarily physical, not cognitive. Breathing is one of the most direct and accessible tools available, because the breath is one of the few bodily functions that operates both automatically and under conscious control. By deliberately slowing and deepening the breath, you can directly influence the autonomic nervous system and begin to shift it out of the alarm state. Grounding practices, which involve bringing conscious attention to physical sensations and the immediate environment, help anchor the nervous system in the present moment rather than in imagined future threats. Body awareness, the practice of noticing physical sensations without judgment, helps rebuild the connection between mind and body that chronic stress tends to sever. Resource work, which involves consciously identifying and returning to experiences of safety, strength, and calm, helps the nervous system build new reference points beyond survival. The situation being navigated at this moment is not a single stressor. It is a convergence of multiple significant life disruptions arriving simultaneously. The loss of employment removes not only financial security, but also daily structure, social connection, and a sense of purpose. The identity crisis that follows is profound, particularly for someone who has built a professional life and a sense of self around a demanding career. The anxiety about the future compounds everything, because the nervous system interprets uncertainty as danger. And then there is the physical dimension, the outbreak of shingles, which is itself a direct signal from the body that the immune system has been overwhelmed. Shingles does not appear randomly. It emerges when the body's defenses have been depleted beyond a certain threshold. It is the body communicating in the clearest possible language. This was too much. Add to this the impact of strong medications on the system, and you have a body that is simultaneously fighting a physical illness, processing enormous emotional weight, and trying to function without the regulatory resources it needs. Your body has sent you an unmistakable signal. It has told you, in the most direct way it knows how, that the load became unsustainable. Regulation is not a luxury in this context. It is the foundation upon which everything else must be built. Without it, the body remains in a state where healing is impaired, clear thinking is difficult, and emotional stability is out of reach. With it, genuine recovery becomes possible. When the nervous system begins to find its way back toward balance, the effects are tangible and far-reaching. Rumination decreases, not because the difficult questions disappear, but because the threat detection system is no longer running at full intensity around the clock. Sleep improves, because the body can finally move through the deeper stages of rest that are essential for physical and emotional repair. Thinking becomes clearer, because the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for perspective, planning, and nuanced judgment, can function properly again once it is no longer being overridden by survival responses. Emotional stability returns gradually, not as a suppression of feeling, but as an increased capacity to experience emotions without being overwhelmed by them. Energy levels begin to recover as the body stops burning its reserves on constant high alert. Physical tension, which often accumulates in the shoulders, chest, jaw, and abdomen during prolonged stress, begins to release. These are not small or superficial changes. They represent a fundamental shift in the internal environment of the body, and they matter enormously in practical terms, because this is the foundation required to move forward. The capacity to make clear decisions about the future, to rebuild professional identity, to engage meaningfully with what comes next, all of this depends on the nervous system having enough stability to support it. Regulation is not the final destination. It is the ground beneath your feet that makes every other step possible.